And we wrap up the week. Hey, everybody. So happy to have you here on If You Don't Like That, keeping an eye on the Rockets and the Warriors as they get ready to close out quarter number 3. Houston obviously trying to stay alive and even up this series at 3 games apiece. How are you today? Have you had a good week? Getting ready for the weekend? We've got a lot to talk about on the show today, particularly if you're a Sacramento Kings fan. There was a press conference today that I was totally unaware of. I didn't even know that there was going to be a press conference with Scott Perry to formally introduce Doug Christie as the Kings head coach. I mean, there was a press release earlier in the week from Scott Perry talking about how they had hired Doug. And normally, when that occurs, you announce the press conference. I mean, that's what they did with Scott Perry. When the Kings formally introduced Scott Perry, they said on, I believe it was Wednesday at 10 a.m., there will be a press conference. That didn't happen with Doug. I don't know what's going on over there. I really don't. Today was a dog and pony show. That's what today was. I don't know how else to say it. No more press conferences. It's a bad look. You're going to kill Scott Perry. All right? You're going to kill the guy because he's going to step all over himself. No more press conferences. Don't need him. Don't put him in a position where he has to think about what he's going to say as to not step on Vivek Ranadive. I said this on my show last night, and I'm going to say it again. The Kings should have been very forthcoming 2 weeks ago when the season ended. When Monte McNair and the Kings parted ways, the Kings that night or the very next morning should have come out with a statement that said Doug Christie is being retained as coach of the Sacramento Kings, period. Because if you remember, right after Monte McNair was on his way out the door, Shams Charania of ESPN put out on social media that Scott Perry was going to be the next Kings general manager, basically in his so many words, that they are working towards an agreement. I told you this 2 weeks ago. Here we are in May. I told you 2 weeks ago. Scott Perry took the job being told, not asked, being told that Doug Christie would be the coach of the Kings. How do I know that? Because I know Vivek Ranadive. That's how I know that. So instead of just trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, instead of trying to make us not appear to be stupid, okay? That's what the Kings are doing. They're trying to make their fans, they're trying to undermine their fans. They're trying to think that they can convince their fans, as Jerry Reynolds always used to say, he didn't always used to say this, but one of the most memorable lines that Jerry ever told me off air, probably 10 years ago, towards the end of the season, we were sitting on the bench getting ready to do our 6:45 rehearsal. And he said, you know what our most important job is, right? I go, what's that? To convince fans they're not seeing what they're seeing. The Sacramento Kings right now as an organization are trying to convince their fans that what they think is going on is not going on. But it is going on. And we are not stupid. We are not stupid. Stop trying to make us feel like imbeciles. Stop it. You're digging yourself a deep hole with this nonsense. Stop it, Scott Perry. Stop it. You're already making your job more difficult than it was when you signed on the dotted line. Stop with the nonsense. Today was a dog and pony show. That's what it was. It was a dog and pony show. And how come somebody can't ask Scott Perry a direct question? Scott, it appears that Doug Christie was already hired before you took the job, that he had already been told that he was going to be the head coach. Is that true? How hard is that? Scott, you were rumored to have been in the driver's seat before the Kings season ended by Shams Charania, a very well-respected NBA insider. Doug was already given the captain's chair before you sign your name on the contract, correct? Or instead of asking it that way, Scott, did Vivek Ranadive give you the job as general manager with the edict that Doug Christie would be your coach? How hard is that question? How hard is that question? How hard is that? Like, you don't think that question would be asked in Philadelphia or New York or Boston or Chicago or so many other markets? Scott, when you and Vivek Ranadive came to a verbal agreement that you would be the Kings general manager, was it also understood that Doug Christie would be your head coach? How hard is that question? I don't get it. Unbelievable. PK says fans know we're not stupid. PK, I got to tell you, I know that. I know you're not stupid. I know you're a great fan, PK. I know you're emotional. I know that you have highs and lows with this team. But PK, I know you're not stupid because I've had many conversations with you and so many other people here on the chat line. That I do know. But you know what, PK? The Kings organization is talking to you like you are stupid because they feel that you can believe the BS that they're spewing to you. Are you going to really believe this nonsense? Can we stop it already? How about some transparency here? We get it. You know, the Kings fans get Vivek Ranadive. They know. They understand. So don't lie to them. Just tell them the way it is. Put Vivek Ranadive out there. Don't put Scott Perry out there. Scott is in an impossible situation. He's trying to navigate his way through an impossible situation. But unfortunately, due to poor PR direction and the Kings' edict that they think that they can tell you whatever you want and you're so gullible that you're just going to take it and swallow it, instead of all of that nonsense, why doesn't Vivek come up there too late now? All right? He should have come up there with you, Scott, when you were introduced, instead of walking out by yourself and just talking like you weren't going to be introduced by the owner. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere. You're just going to come out from behind a curtain and sit down and start talking? Like, what the hell is that all about? Right then and there, the owner should have been next to you and should have said, it's a pleasure to welcome Scott Perry to the Sacramento Kings organization. And before we begin, because I know this will probably be your first question, I have decided, along with Scott, go ahead, you can say that, but I have decided, along with Scott, that Doug Christie will be our full-time head coach, period. Would anyone like to ask questions? There you have it. We know Vivek Ranadive made the decision and not Scott Perry. And Scott then can ask or answer questions. Well, why would you take a job without the ability to hire a head coach? And then he can say, well, I've known Doug, and you know what? After talking with Doug over the last couple of days, I'm fine with Vivek's direction. Blah, say whatever you want, but don't lie to us. Stop it already. And what's all this rah-rah stuff? I want players that understand, what we fought for and to keep the Kings here. Let me tell you something. Today's player in the NBA doesn't give a damn about playing to win. and about here we stay. They don't give a damn about that. You know what? You remember when De'Aaron Fox came to Sacramento and put out this minute-plus statement on the Players Tribune about how we're going to fight as hard for your city and your team as you did? How did that work out? That guy that made that statement on the Players Tribune, the rah-rah stuff with your pom-poms, which sounded great at the time and got everybody pumped up, and it was like, wow, De'Aaron truly understands what everybody just went through. He's the same guy that just quit on you and wanted out of town. That stuff is a bunch of crap. You know what? These mottos, these slogans, these edicts, stop with the nonsense. You know what the Kings' motto should be? Win some freaking games. That's what the motto should be. Win some freaking games. Not any of this nonsense. You think today's player coming out of college or a young player who you're going to try to build your team around gives a damn what happened in Sacramento 10 years ago? They don't care. They're not going to ever understand what we went through as a community. They don't give a damn. You want players like that, Doug? Come on. It's all nonsense. It's just garbage. It's garbage is what it is. It's just an absolute piece of crap garbage. God. Unbelievable. Stop it with the nonsense. Hit me up. Give me a call right here on if you don't like that. And I want to know, do you agree with me or disagree with me? We'd love to hear from you. Give me a shout. You got the link right there. I'll put the QR code up as well over my shoulder if you want to use that. And you'll be able to come on the show. Seriously. Hit me up. Chat line, calls. Do you agree with my assessment or disagree? Because to me, it is an extremely insulting day to be a Sacramento Kings fan when you got to listen to that garbage. PK, it's always great to get your perspective. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing, big boss?
You know, I'm trying to make the best of what I think was a joke today, but I'll let
Dude,
you
this
speak.
is weird.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is weird. This is the whole thing is freaking weird to me. Like what I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know what they're doing, Grant. What the hell are they doing? They
They're trying to
fired a
cover for they're
coach.
trying to cover for their owner who already had hired the coach before he hired the general manager, and they don't want a repeat of what happened with Pete D'Alessandro and Michael Malone, where he hired Michael Malone first, then the general manager second, and that ended up being one of the biggest disasters in Kings franchise history. That's what they're
But
trying to do,
this
PK.
looks weird. But the whole situation looks weird. Like everything looks freaking weird.
It's
Like
exactly right.
everything looks freaking weird. It's like, what is the freaking future? What like you don't have any draft picks either. Like,
Uh,
what is this? Like, what are we doing? Is this a clown show? Are we a circus?
You're a circus.
What are we?
Get 12 guys in there. They're going to fight for the community the way we all did, PK, 10 years ago. That's what they're looking for. I mean, come
But
on.
these fans, man, but it's like these fans, like you have like the like it's like it almost feels like they're taking advantage of the fact, like the Vivek is taking advantage of the fact that you have the greatest fans in NBA, arguably, who sell out the freaking stadium every single time. Like we did not have a playoff game like for 13 years or whatever it was. And now it's like, what, you put freaking Doug Christie as a head coach? What are you doing? What the hell are you doing? There's freaking so many coaches available who can do X's and O's.
Well,
And you
last week, Scott Perry said his phone was ringing off the hook with potential candidates.
and now we have Doug Christie as a coach. So like what is the future now?
Well,
The future is
You had Doug
complete
Christie. You had Doug
trash.
Christie when he made that statement. Doug Christie was already told he was going to be the head coach last week before Scott Perry even made that statement. But go ahead.
Yeah, but everyone said it's like, okay, what now everyone's gonna say like, well, we need to like now what so like for a freaking rest of the time we're gonna freaking say like, oh, we need someone to babysit Doug Christie. Now we're gonna have to hire a freaking coach, an assistant coach to like babysit Doug Christie. Like,
Doug's
what
greatest,
is
okay,
this?
here's Doug's greatest attribute. And this is exactly what the Kings are trying to get across to you. And it was in the written statement from Scott Perry when he hired Doug, and it was at the press conference today. Doug Christie has been hired as the Sacramento Kings coach for two reasons. Number one, Vivek Ranadive wants him and likes him. And number two, the players that play for him like him. So now we have a coach that the players like. Really? Well, can the
Yeah,
guy
well,
coach?
they like him.
Can the guy
What is
coach?
this?
Can the guy coach?
You don't win on love.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
You don't win on love. You win
No.
on freaking like getting things together and having like consistency.
Yeah,
You don't
win on
win.
emotions. You don't win.
You
on
don't win on like someone that likes a coach.
I know. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
All right. Thank you, brother.
PK, have a good weekend, buddy. All right, you're the best. Love you too, man. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right? All these slogans, all this crap. How about win some freaking games? That ought to be the motto. Win some freaking games. That should be the motto. It's a joke. The franchise has no backbone. It's just Cupcakesville. It's just a joke. It's a joke. Seriously. I told you this was going to happen. I told you before it happened, this was going to happen. I told you that now the Kings are going to have to pull the wool over your eyes and make it seem like other coaches were vetted before Doug was given the keys to the car. I told you this. I told you this 2 weeks ago. And here we are on, what is it, May 2nd? And this is exactly what they're trying to do. It's incredible. It's such a shame that an owner can run a franchise like this. It's such a shame because you fans deserve so much better. And again, I'm not anti Scott Perry. I'm not anti Doug Christie. I'm just not. I know Doug's love for the Sacramento Kings. I know Doug was like, we were together every day for years. I've known Doug for 25 years. Okay? Like he cried on my show when he got traded. I had a weekly show with Doug. He came on my show and cried. He broke down on the phone. When he went from Sacramento to Orlando, he broke down on the phone. He cried on my show. I know Doug better than any of you. Much better than any of you. Like, I know what makes Doug tick. Doug lives in a bubble. I've shared this with you before. Doug lives in a tiny little bubble with his wife, his son, and the basketball world. That's it. Doug couldn't have a 2-minute conversation on anything current events in the world. He doesn't know anything. I'm sorry. He lives in a bubble. He's a great husband. He's a great father. He's really a great person. He is, okay? Like, I can say that about Doug. He's got so many great characteristics. But first and foremost, he loves the Sacramento Kings. But Doug doesn't have any idea what's going on around the world. You couldn't have a talk with Doug for 2 minutes on what's going on with any current event in the world outside of his bubble. He doesn't know. I know that because I've had conversations with him where I'm like, I was just like, whoa. Like, I just couldn't believe it at times. Seriously. But that's fine. I mean, he lives in a bubble. That's fine. But again, I'm not like coming down on Doug. I'm just telling you, I know him better than you do. I've spent so much time with him. and he loves the Sacramento Kings. I get that. I don't need a press conference to see Doug talk about his love for this franchise. I already know that. And you as a fan knows that. You know that. Like, that's not news to me. But enough with this. I want players in here, that understand what we fought for in the fan base. The players don't give a damn about that. And you're not going to get players that care. Stop it already. Seriously, we've been through this. We already tried that. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. PK, thanks for the call, man. It was a good leadoff. Thank you very much. Really good leadoff. Hey, don't forget about Mother's Day coming up and Bennett's Restaurant, Prime Seafood and Steaks. Bennett's, Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill in Rockland. Make sure you make your Mother's Day reservation now, all right? Don't forget, Bennett's is a great place to take mom. Bennett'sRestaurants.com, Prime Seafood and Steaks. Make your reservations now at Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Do you understand where I'm coming from with this? Like, do you see where I'm at? Are you where I'm at? I know PK is. PK is a big-time fan. What about you? Sounds like a politician or car salesman. That's exactly what he sounds like. We need blue-collar players like the community, yeah. Kings need a new coach. Why do us Kings fans always get screwed year after year after year? Because you have a horrible owner. I agree, but Sabonis deserves a rant directed at him. Why am I going to rant on Sabonis for? Help me out. Why? Why should I rant on Sabonis? Danny says Sacramento fans deserve better. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You deserve a lot better. Yeah. You deserve much, much better. That's one thing we can all agree on. You deserve much better. But it seems like most of you agree with me on this. Right? Says they were terrible on defense and a terrible offensive scheme, so expect upgrades on the offense and defense lead assistants. So in order to be successful, you can't rely on your head coach. You got to rely on your assistants and your coordinators. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I'm not coming down on you. I'm just asking you if that's what you're implying. This today was a dog and pony show. And it was very interesting when a question was asked to both of them about building the team and et cetera. Doug said, Scott, I'll let you go first. Yeah, because Doug's going to take Scott's lead in everything he says. Why? Because they're not joined at the hip. And Doug knows that. You think Doug's not stupid? Doug knows that Doug knows he was hired before Scott Perry. He gets it. Doug's not stupid. Doug's trying to get through this press conference without any controversy, without any conflict. So of course he's going to let Scott go first. He's got to follow with what Scott is saying. Did you see the press conference today? How apparent was that? Right? I don't know what to say. Incredible. Sabonis is a great player and needs to improve. He is not a problem with the Kings. The owner is the main problem. Totally accurate. Incredible. Sabonis per Sam Amick. Too many practices under Mike Brown. Sabonis too few practices under DC. And that means what? That means what? I didn't hear Sabonis complaining or Sam Amick quoting Domantas Sabonis after he won 48 games the first year. I didn't hear any complaints. I didn't hear any complaints at all that year. I don't recall any complaints last year, to be honest with you, when they won 46. Maybe I'm missing something. If And when it works, will you be shocked? Yes, I will. I'd love to be wrong here, by the way, Stephen. Stephen, I'm would love to be wrong here, but I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to be wrong here at all. Send Doug congratulations on what? What do you mean by that, Jeff? Kings need better players, young, athletic, with length. Yep. And Scott Perry did say that last week. And I think we know that as well. Very true. Very true. So in 2 weeks, we've had 2 press conferences, one with Scott Perry all by himself with nobody near him, and today with Scott Perry and Doug Christie. And you can poke holes through both of these press conferences if you really want to. And I look at this from both sides of the fence. First and foremost, I know, trust me when I say this, I know. Not 90%, not 95, 100%. Scott Perry is in an impossible situation. He took the job because he didn't have a job and he needed the job. I would have done the same thing. You would have done the same thing. So I'm not going to criticize Scott Perry for taking the job with the Sacramento Kings. I would have done the same thing. I like Scott. I'm not like crazy about his basketball front office achievements. Like I don't think he's very good in that area, but I like Scott. And I would have taken the job also. Okay? I would have taken the same job under the same circumstances if I was force-fed the coach. I got a guaranteed contract. I'm 61, can be my last job. My wife of 39 years and I can ride off into the sunset. See you later, alligator. I'm okay with that. Okay? I'm okay with that. But can you do me a favor? Can you stop with the shtick? Can you stop with the nonsense? You don't, Scott, you don't understand the Sacramento fan base, and you need to. And if you want to hang out with me for a couple of hours, I can educate you where I think I could help you. You can't BS the Sacramento Kings fans. Don't try. You want to just tarnish your credibility? Come out with this shtick and keep on giving us this load of BS, and you're going to have a very short tenure here with the fans. Don't do it. We've been down this road before. Don't do it. All right? Don't do it. You don't have to be buddy-buddy with everybody, okay? And I know you're trying to be buddy-buddy with everybody. You're a great PR guy. I understand that about you. I do know that about Scott Perry. He wants the media on his side, smart move, and he wants the fans on his side, smart move. I get it. I would do the same thing. But it's too thick. Got to back off a little bit. Got to back off a little bit. Am I surprised that Bibby and Shaq are working together after how much they disliked each other during the playoff days? Dislike on the floor and dislike off the floor are two different things. So, no, I'm shocked that Shaq would do this. But no, that doesn't surprise me at all. Not at all. Scott, quote, the more Doug and I talked, the fit became more and more apparent. Again, it's BS. Stop it. We don't need to hear that. You took the job being told that Doug was your head coach. Stop it. The 2 press conferences was a waste of time. Do they think the Kings fans are dumb and don't know things? That's how it seems. That's how it seems. Scott Perry, quote, sometimes you need diversity of thought with unity of purpose. What? It's garbage. It's nonsense. I go to Sac State. Will there be an event we can meet Bibby and Shaq? I'm sure there will. But, you got to remember the basketball season doesn't begin for several months. But, yeah, I'm sure there will. Absolutely. And I wish Mike Bibby the very best of luck. I like Mike. I'm a big fan of Mike. I've always been a big fan of Mike. I like Mike as a person. I loved him as a player. I'm all about Mike. I love Mike. And I have a lot of respect for Mike. I like Mike. I think I shared this story about Mike Bibby. We were in the lobby of the hotel in Washington, D.C., Mike's last year with Sacramento. And he comes up to me, goes, I see him in the lobby at the restaurant. He comes right up to me, goes, hey, I got a question. He goes, why are you so negative towards me on the telecast? I go, what? He goes, yeah, on this, it was like the last game of the road trip too. He goes, yeah, I've been getting all these calls that you guys are just killing me on the broadcast by putting up these graphics and everything. And I said, you know what, Mike, I'm not really aware of that, but I'm going to give you my word. When I go home, I'm going to go back and watch the games and I'll let you know. He goes, I appreciate that. I got home at 3:30 in the morning, woke up, reunited with my family, and then I watched 2 games. And I'm like, yeah, we're Mike was going through a bad streak, and we were showing we were kind of maybe going a little too far. Our producer putting up graphics that definitely were not kind to Mike. So I saw Mike at the next game. And before the game, I said, Mike, come here. I said, hey, man, I told you I was going to go home and watch the games. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. I said, I've talked to the producer and the director. And I said, I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I really wasn't aware when I was doing the game. I said, but we're on it. And I said, I think you have a valid criticism here. And he said, hey, I really appreciate it. I go, no, I appreciate you coming up to me and speaking to me face to face. I appreciate when a guy does that, Another word salad from Scott. Grant, I hope you are wrong, but knowing that you have seen how this organization runs close up and personal, it scares me. You should be scared. Warriors are not looking good at home in a closeout game 7, looking like it's going to happen. Yeah, looks like game 7 is going to happen. I've been following it. And I give Houston a lot of credit getting off the mat. The game's not over yet, but they got a 14-point lead with 5 minutes left. Grant is spot on. Kings have no hope, missing the play-in for sure. I can't say that on May 2nd. I didn't say that they have no hope for sure. I just said, I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm very skeptical. I didn't say they have no hope. I didn't really say that, did I? Thanks for including me in your chat. I don't agree with you on everything, but that's okay. No problem. I don't expect everyone to agree with me on everything that I say, but understand this. Whether you agree with me or not, it comes from an area of experience. Like, I don't just come out here with a microphone and a camera and make outlandish comments to get a reaction. I tell you what I believe, and a lot of it is based on knowledge. Okay? A lot of it is based on knowledge. What I'm talking to you about today is all about knowledge. I've been there. I've seen it. I know. And I told you before it happened exactly what would happen in these 2 weeks. I told you verbatim. Go back and watch my shows of 2 weeks ago. Everything that has happened, I told you was going to happen. I told you. Everything. I don't like to brag. I haven't been wrong once on this whole thing. Not once. So if you don't agree with me, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. If you think that this is a great hire by Vivek with the general manager and coach, that's fine. I'm not going to try to change your mind. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to change your mind. If you think Scott Perry and Doug Christie are a great tandem and you're on board with that, that's fine. Be on board. Support them. Support your team. But I'm telling you, before this gets rolling, this is not going to work. That's what I'm telling you. Could I be wrong? I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and if I'm wrong, I'll come out and tell you I'm wrong. How do I evaluate Keegan Murray's year? Could have been better, should have been better. That's how I evaluate it. Needs a big step forward here. Big step. That's how I evaluate it. Hey, don't forget about EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. David and Adam, 2 guys trying to do something different and better. And if you have a vehicle that you are looking to sell, get in touch with them. You got the number, the email. I'm putting up their website at edhmotors.com. And if you're looking to buy, go to their website, see what they have. And if you don't find what you're looking for, give them a call. They'll get it for you. They'll find what you're looking for. They'll use their decades of automotive experience, and then you'll go down and pick up your vehicle at their auto lounge at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. Go to edhmotors.com and get more information. EDH Motors, automotive, reimagined. So no more press conferences, all right? And at the moment, it doesn't look like you're going to have a first-round pick, so you don't have to have a press conference to introduce a second-round pick because no one cares. So there's no reason to have a press conference, really, until the season begins, unless you make a trade or sign a free agent. You want to introduce that player, then you have a press conference. But right now, there's no reason to have a press conference on the horizon at all. So hopefully this nonsense is over. That's how I look at it. Call me negative, call me pessimistic. I'm just telling you, and I've told you, and I've been right every step of the way, and until I'm wrong, then I'll keep going. Looks like the Rockets are going to force a Game 7, 106-89. They're running away from the Golden State Warriors. I don't think the Kings will make the play, and adding a point guard and trading DeMar might add 5 wins to this Kings roster. Well, adding 5 wins would make the playoffs. Kings top 4 pick May 12th. Dennis, you got a 3.4% chance of that happening. Are you going to go with that? Huh? Just asking. There's a chance, but somebody came up to you and said, Dennis, there's only a 3.4% chance you're going to be alive tomorrow. Would you feel good about that? Or would you be like, oh my gosh, tonight's my last night? Vivek missing in action at these press conferences. Yeah, because that would even be a bigger disaster if he were on stage having to answer questions. That would be a disaster of epic proportions. And the Kings organization knows that, and they're shielding him from that because they know that he would be slaughtered in a press conference, even with the vanilla cupcake questions that have been asked. Last year, second-round pick Jamal Sneed outplayed Davion Mitchell and got him shipped out to Miami. Sneed averaged 17 minutes, 17 points per game, or 7 points per game as a backup. Miami traded him to get rid of Sasha. Yeah, Davion Mitchell would look pretty good on this roster right now, huh? Right? Danny says you're saying there's a chance. Yes, Danny, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a chance. Yes, I am saying that, Danny. 3.4%. I am saying there's a chance. Absolutely correct. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. Danny, I got some advice for you. You have a plumbing need, concern? Get in touch with New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock. They're awesome. Go to sackserviceplumbing.com or newworksplumbing.com, NEWWRXplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Seems like a lot of the fans here are pessimistic as well. Ben says you've mentioned it, but the amount of softball questions during the presser was ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely unbelievable. There should be one question that should be very obvious. Scott, you've talked a lot in both press conferences about the process, but were you told when you took the job by Vivek Ranadive that Doug Christie would be your coach? How hard is that? How hard is that question? Danny says I get an A+ for my transition. Thank you, buddy. I'll take the A+. I didn't get a lot of A+. I'll take that. I'll take that. Grant, if you're Perry, what would you do to improve this roster? Or would Perry just wait for Vivek to tell him? There's a little bit of both, but he addressed it. You know, the first thing they need is a point guard. He knows that. That will be the number one area, point guard. And then you go from there. Not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. Here we are in May, and it looks like you're not going to have a lottery pick. You're not going to have a first-round pick in all likelihood unless Danny's right and you get extremely lucky. So assuming that you don't have a first-round pick, players aren't telling their agents, boy, I can't wait to get to Sacramento. I want to play for Scott Perry and Doug Christie. Like, that's not happening. So how are you going to get this team better? Right? Grant, you were spot on. Love you, bro. Thank you, man. I appreciate your support. Thank you, Wolf. Appreciate that. A's rolling, good young squad. Yeah, they are. They're playing well. They're playing well. Scott Perry could just do pressers and not change the team at this point. He's got his contract. It's a lame duck GM to me. I told you last week I would have hired a younger general manager who has to succeed for his future. That's what I would have done if I were the owner. I wouldn't have hired a guy that's 61 that's going to be on his last job. I wouldn't have done that. And that's not a knock on Scott. If I was Scott Perry, I would have taken the job too. I don't dislike Scott. I've made that very clear. I would have done the same thing. But if I were the owner, there's no way I would have hired Scott Perry. I would have hired a younger general manager whose career depends on success. Scott Perry's career does not depend on success. Doesn't matter. If the Kings win 10 games next year and Scott Perry gets fired, it doesn't matter to him. He's out the door with his money. See you later. Grant, you always seem negative. Well, if you can't handle it, don't watch me. If you think that being honest is negative, then go watch somebody else and get fed all this crap that you're getting fed by so many others. You want to hear the truth, or do you want to hear what you want to hear? Your decision. I don't force you to come on and watch my show. You watch it for what reason? You can't handle negativity, don't watch. Grant, you're right as always. You're the best. Thank you very much. Chris Webber had a book out in October on your reading list. I wouldn't read one sentence from a liar and a fraud like Chris Webber. There is nothing that Chris Webber could write that I would read and believe. The guy is a fraud and he is a chronic liar. He's been that way his whole life. He is a fraud. F-R-A-U-D. Fraud. So no, I'm not putting his book on my reading list. What if Scott said, yes, I knew about DC? Perfect. Would have been great. Would have been great. Would have been fabulous. Tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. That's all. Tell us the truth. I would have been okay with that because I already knew the truth. Don't lie to me when I already know the truth. I would have been fine, and you as a Kings fan would have been fine because you accept that. That's the way it is. Huh? I'm just asking. The thumbnail appears up of your channel. What does that mean? I'm sorry. Any update on Scott Pollard? Yes, Scott's doing great. I talk with Scott several times a week, and he's doing fabulous, Peter, and I know that he would be grateful that you're asking, but he's doing very well. So far, it's been a perfect transplant, and everything's going perfectly. Grant, would you rebuild or restart the Kings if their peak is 7 to 10 seed in the West? If I was the Kings GM? Well, that's a fabulous question. I would restart as opposed to rebuild. It's a very good question. I would restart. I wouldn't rebuild yet. I'm 1 year away from rebuilding. I wouldn't start it just yet. And I think in order to rebuild, you need to have a really high draft pick. And that's how you rebuild. You got to get very fortunate in the draft. and then you go. Look at the Spurs, right? Look at the Rockets. Look at some of these other teams that were behind Sacramento and now are ahead of Sacramento. So that's what I would do. That's what you don't want Trae Young, Dennis. Trust me. You don't want Trae Young. You don't want Trae Young. What you do want, though, when you're buying a home, all right, you want somebody that you can trust, that has loads of experience, and that's Connor with Element Mortgage. The team behind him, over 100 years of experience. Connor himself has closed so many homes over his career. He's a Sacramentan. He knows the market inside and out. Yes, you can trust him. 916-505-1006. That's Connor with the Element Mortgage. Give him a call if you're buying a home, selling a home. He's your man. Get in touch with him now. That's Connor with Element Mortgage. Well, this wraps up the week, right? This wraps up the week. It's been a crazy week in this sense, right? The Kings formally introduced Doug Christie, albeit 1 week too late. They've had another press conference. There's more questions than answers. You know, Rick says, I really wish I didn't renew my season tickets for next season. I'm fed up. Well, hopefully you can sell them, hopefully. The West is so brutal. Our current roster has players that don't fit. It's true, but the season doesn't start until October, and it's only April, or it's only May. So, keep that in mind. Like, the roster today is not going to be the roster on opening night. So it's very difficult to evaluate where the Kings shape up in the West at this point. Very difficult. All right. I'm going to wrap up the week as well. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. PK, thanks for the call, buddy. Thanks for all of your text messages. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll be back Monday right here on If You Don't Like That. Bye-bye, everybody.